The cold metal floor of the listening post offered no comfort to Corporal Daiho as he stared at the communications console. The last message from Coalition Command still glowed on the screen, each word feeling like a knife in his chest. Mission abandoned. No extraction available. Good luck. Good luck. As if luck meant anything when you were stranded on a frozen moon with hostile aliens closing in from all sides. Daiho turned to face his squad. 9 soldiers sat or stood around the cramped outpost, their faces showing various stages of shock, anger, and fear. They had trusted the Galactic Coalition. Earth had joined this alliance of alien species with hope and pride. Humanity finally had a place among the stars. But now the truth was clear. To the aliens, humans were disposable. Private Jiwan, the squad's medic, spoke first. Her voice was steady despite the tears in her eyes. How long do we have? Oxygen will last 2 days if we're careful, Kiwoo answered from his station. The tech specialist's fingers moved across his datapad, checking and rechecking the numbers as if hoping they would change. Life support heating is failing. We'll freeze before we suffocate. Private Hyunwoo slammed his fist against the wall. The heavy weapons specialist was the biggest among them, but even his strength meant nothing against the cold mathematics of survival. They just left us. We completed the mission. We sent them the intelligence on Vrexian fleet movements, and they just left us here to die. Because we're human, Private Taehyun said bitterly. The demolitions expert kicked at an empty supply crate. We're too weak, too primitive, too worthless to waste a rescue ship on. That's what they think. Private Sora looked up from the communication station she had been desperately working on for the past hour. I can't get through to anyone. They've blocked our frequencies. It's like we don't exist anymore. Private Nari, their pilot, laughed without humor. Our transport ship jumped to hyperspace 3 hours ago. I watched it on the sensors. Didn't even hesitate. Just left. The youngest member of the squad, Private Hana, sat with her knees pulled to her chest. She had only turned 20 years old last month. My mom thought I was going to be safe out here. She said the Coalition would protect us. The Coalition protects its own, Daiho said quietly, and we're not their own. We're just tools they use and throw away. Private Minho spoke from his position by the window. The scout had been watching the horizon for the past hour. Movement. 3 kilometers out. Vrexian scouts looks like. They'll find us by morning. Everyone turned to look. Through the reinforced window, they could see lights moving in the darkness. The Vrexians were hunting, and they had plenty of time to search. Private Yunji stood up from where she had been examining the power systems. The engineer's hands were covered in grease and frost. I can maybe get the heating working for another day if I cannibalize the communications array completely. But that means no more distress calls. What's the point of distress calls when no one's listening? Taehyun muttered. Daiho made the decision. Do it. I'd rather die warm than frozen while hoping for a rescue that won't come. The squad fell into silence. Each of them was processing the reality in their own way. They were soldiers. They had accepted the possibility of death when they joined the expeditionary force. But this wasn't dying in glorious battle or sacrificing themselves for a greater cause. This was being thrown away like garbage. So what do we do? Jiwon asked. Do we fight? Do we try to run? There's nowhere to run, Minho said. This moon is barely terraformed. Outside the tunnel systems, we'd freeze in minutes without heated suits. And our suits are already damaged from the last patrol. Then we fight, Hyunwoo said. He checked his weapon, a heavy plasma rifle that had seen better days. We make them pay for every meter. If we're going to die, let's die like humans. Let's show them what that means. We have ammunition for maybe 2 firefights, Kiwoo reported. Against an estimated 200 Vrexian warriors plus their battle mechs. The math isn't good. The math was never good for humans, Daiho said. He stood up and walked to the center of the room. But we're still here. Earth is still standing. Our species survived ice ages and plagues and wars. We survived first contact with aliens who thought we'd be conquered in a week. We're survivors, are we? Hana asked softly. Or are we just stubborn? Maybe both, Jiwon said with a small smile. She moved to sit beside the young private. My grandmother survived the resource wars. She told me that humans have something special. We don't know when to quit, even when we should. That's not a survival trait, Taehyun said. That's stupidity. Then we're stupid together, Daiho said. I say we fortify this position. We set traps. We make them work for it. And maybe, just maybe, we take enough of them down that the Coalition hears about it. Let Earth know what happened here. Let our families know we didn't go quietly. One by one, the soldiers nodded. There was no other choice. Running meant dying in the cold. Surrendering meant torture and death at Vrexian hands. Fighting meant death too. But at least it was death with purpose. They spent the next hours preparing. Yunji rigged explosive traps around the perimeter. Minho found sniper positions in the rocks outside. Yunwu set up his heavy weapons to cover the main approaches. Sora programmed an automated distress beacon to keep broadcasting on all frequencies, even if no one was listening. Kiwu hacked the outpost's remaining systems to give them every advantage. Taehyun prepared explosive charges as a last resort. Nari plotted emergency routes through the tunnel systems. Jiwon prepared medical supplies, though they all knew there wouldn't be much need if the Vrexians broke through. Hana helped everyone, learning and assisting, refusing to be useless. And Daeho planned. He studied maps and sensor data. He calculated firing lanes and retreat points. He turned the listening post into a fortress as best he could with their limited resources. As night fell on Keswick 7, the 10 human soldiers sat together sharing their last decent meal. They told stories about home, about Earth, about the people they loved. They laughed at old jokes and remembered better times. You know what's funny? Sora said. Yesterday I was complaining about this posting. I wanted to be assigned somewhere with better facilities. Somewhere warm. Careful what you wish for, Minho said. If I survive this, Hyunwoo said, I'm going to open a restaurant. Serve real Earth food. Make enough money to never leave the planet again. When you open it, Jiwon corrected gently. When, not if. But they all knew the truth. None of them would see Earth again. The Vrexians would come with the dawn. And that would be the end. Daeho took the first watch. As the others tried to sleep, he stood at the window and looked out at the alien landscape. Somewhere out there, the Vrexians were coming. Somewhere above, Coalition ships were jumping to safety. And somewhere very far away, Earth continued spinning, unaware that 10 of its children were about to die alone. I'm sorry, he whispered to the empty air. Sorry to his squad. Sorry to their families. Sorry to humanity for not being strong enough to change how the galaxy saw them. The night grew colder. The stars above offered no comfort, and Corporal Daeho waited for the end to begin. The second night brought strange sounds to Keswick 7. Daeho heard them first during his watch, soft chirping noises that seemed wrong for a moon that had no native wildlife. He gripped his rifle tighter and scanned the perimeter with his thermal scope. Nothing appeared on the sensors, but something was out there. He woke Minho quietly. The scout joined him at the window, eyes sharp despite the interrupted sleep. They both heard it again, a sound like crystals chiming in wind, musical and oddly beautiful. What is that? Minho whispered. I don't know. It's not Vrexian. Their armor makes a grinding sound when they move. The sound came closer. Both soldiers raised their weapons, aiming at the darkness beyond their defensive perimeter. Then they saw it. At first, Daeho thought his tired mind was playing tricks. The creature that stepped into the light of their flood lamps looked like something from Earth's old stories. It had the body of a dragon, but small, barely reaching 4 feet tall. Its scales were pure white, catching the light and throwing it back in rainbow patterns. Wings, folded against its back, seemed too delicate for flight. Red eyes, bright as rubies, studied them with clear intelligence. Don't shoot, Daeho said, though his finger stayed near the trigger. It hasn't attacked. What is it? Minho asked. I have no idea. The white dragon tilted its head, watching them. Then it did something unexpected. It picked up a piece of metal debris in its mouth and carried it forward, setting it down just outside their defensive line. The dragon stepped back and sat down, tail curling around its legs like a cat. Daeho looked at the debris. His heart jumped. It was a thermal regulator, the exact component Yunji needed to repair their heating system. Wake the others, he said, slowly. No sudden movements. Within minutes, all 10 soldiers stood watching the white dragon. The creature seemed unconcerned by their weapons. It chirped again, that musical sound, and pushed the thermal regulator closer with its nose. Is it trying to help us? Hana asked, wonder in her voice. Or it's bait for a trap, Taehyun said suspiciously. Nothing just helps for free. Kiwoo had his datapad out, scanning the creature. His eyes went wide as he read the results. It's biological but enhanced. There's nanotechnology in its cellular structure, ancient tech, nothing like what the Coalition uses. And its brain activity, the readings are off the scale. This thing is smart. Really smart? Ji-won stepped forward carefully. Hello, she said softly. Can you understand me? The dragon's ears perked up. It made a softer chirping sound, almost friendly. I think it does, Ji-won said. She turned to Daeho. Permission to approach? Every instinct told Daeho this was dangerous. But they were already dead soldiers waiting for execution. What was one more risk? Carefully, Ji-won moved slowly toward the dragon. She kept her hands visible, her movements gentle. The dragon watched her but didn't retreat. When she got close, she knelt down to its eye level. Thank you for the gift, she said. We need it. The dragon made a pleased sound and moved closer. Ji-won reached out slowly and the dragon allowed her to touch its scales. They were warm like sun-heated stones. It's purring, Ji-won said with amazement. Like a cat, Yoonji carefully retrieved the thermal regulator. She examined it closely. This is exactly what we need. And it's in perfect condition. Where did it find this? The dragon turned and pointed with its nose toward the tunnel systems that ran through the moon. It chirped insistently. I think it wants to show us something, Sora said. Or lead us into a trap, Taehyun repeated. But Minho was studying the dragon carefully. Look at its wing, left side. That membrane has an old tear. Never healed, right? That would ground it. Ji-won saw it too. You're hurt, she said gently to the dragon. That must be painful. The dragon made a sad sound, lowering its head. Ji-won looked back at Daeho. I can treat that. The membrane is thin enough that surgical tape and synthetic skin might work. It won't be perfect, but it might help. We barely have medical supplies for ourselves, Taehyun protested. We're all dead in 2 days anyway, Ji-won said quietly. What's the harm in using supplies to help someone who tried to help us? Daeho thought about it. They had been abandoned by beings who claimed to be civilized. This creature, whatever it was, had brought them something they needed. Without asking for anything. Maybe that meant something. Do it, he said. The dragon seemed to understand. It extended its wing carefully, showing the damaged membrane. Ji-won worked slowly and carefully, cleaning the old wound and applying synthetic skin to support the damaged tissue. She used surgical tape to hold everything in place. The dragon stayed perfectly still, only making small chirping sounds. There, Ji-won said finally. That should help. Don't try to fly for a few days. Let it heal. The dragon looked at its wing, flexing it experimentally. Then it did something that shocked them all. It pressed its head against Ji-won's hand. Like a dog showing affection. It made a sound that seemed clearly like gratitude. I think we just made a friend, Sora said softly. Kiwoo was typing rapidly on his datapad. I'm running the scans through every database I have access to. Nothing matches. This species isn't in any coalition records. It's like it doesn't exist. Or it existed before the coalition, Yoonji suggested. She had installed the thermal regulator and the heating system hummed to life. Before any of us. The dragon moved to the center of their group. It sat down and began making a series of chirps and gestures. It pointed to itself, then made a sound that almost sounded like Beksul. Is that its name? Hana asked. Beksul, Ji-won said. It sounds like Korean. It means white snow. The dragon chirped excitedly when Ji-won said the name. It nodded its head. You understand Korean? Ji-won asked in amazement. Or did we just accidentally say your name? Beksul stood up and moved to the floor. Using its claw, it began drawing in the dust. Simple pictures. A moon, tunnels, other creatures. Then it drew what looked like larger dragons. Then it pointed to itself and drew a smaller dragon. Alone. It's been here a long time, Minho said, watching. And it's alone. Beksul nodded sadly. Then it drew something else. Soldiers, aliens with weapons. It pointed at the human soldiers, then at itself. Then it made a protective gesture, wrapping its tail around the drawing of soldiers. It wants to protect us? Hyunwoo said in disbelief. Beksul chirped firmly and nodded. Why? Taehyun asked. Why help us? Beksul looked at each of them in turn. Then it placed its paw over the spot where Ji-won had treated its wing. The message was clear. They had helped it, so it would help them. Kiwoo pulled up his scans again. If these readings are right, this creature is incredibly powerful. The energy signatures I'm detecting, it could generate heat levels that would melt through Vrexian armor. A dragon that breathes fire, Nari said with a slight smile. Just like in the old stories. Not fire, Kiwoo corrected. Plasma, superheated matter. Much more dangerous. Daeho looked at the small white dragon. It looked back at him with those intelligent red eyes. He had been a soldier long enough to read people, to judge their intentions. What he saw in Bexiel's eyes was not deception. It was sincerity. "Okay, Bexiel," he said. "If you want to help us, we accept. We can use all the help we can get." Bexiel made a happy chirping sound and did a small hop. Then it moved to the window and looked out at the darkness. Its expression changed, becoming serious. It pointed outside with its nose and made a warning sound. Minho checked the sensors. His face went pale. "Phyrexian forces. They're starting their approach. We have maybe 6 hours before they reach us." The mood in the room shifted instantly. The brief moment of wonder was replaced by the cold reality of their situation. The enemy was coming, but now they had something they didn't have before. They had Bexiel. The white dragon moved to Daiho and tugged gently on his uniform. It gestured toward the tunnels again, more insistently this time. "I think it wants us to follow it," Sora said. "Into the tunnels." Taehyun shook his head. "That's suicide. We'd be trapped." But Bexiel shook its head firmly. It drew in the dust again. Tunnels with many branches, rooms, spaces. Then it drew Rexian soldiers and showed them getting lost, getting trapped. "It knows the tunnels," Yunji said slowly. "It lives here. It knows every passage." "We could use that," Minho said, his tactical mind working. "Guerrilla warfare. Hit and run. We'd have the advantage in terrain we know and they don't." Daiho looked at his squad. They were tired, scared, but still ready to fight. Then he looked at Bexiel, who watched him with patient, intelligent eyes. "All right," he said. "Show us." Bexiel led them into the tunnels just as the first Rexian scouts appeared on the horizon. The tunnel entrance was hidden behind a rock formation that looked natural, but had clearly been shaped by intelligent hands. Once inside, the tunnels opened into a vast network of passages that seemed to stretch forever into the moon's interior. The walls were smooth, carved with precision that human tools couldn't match. Strange symbols covered some surfaces, glowing faintly with their own light. Kiwoo kept scanning everything, his datapad recording data that would revolutionize human understanding of ancient civilizations, if any of them survived to share it. "These tunnels are millions of years old," he whispered. "But the air is breathable. The temperature is stable. Something is still maintaining them." Bexiel led them deeper, moving with confidence through passages that all looked the same to human eyes. The dragon seemed to glow slightly in the darkness, its white scales reflecting the dim light of the ancient symbols. Every so often it would stop and chirp, waiting for the slower humans to catch up. After 20 minutes of walking, they entered a large chamber. The room was circular with multiple tunnel exits leading in different directions. In the center stood what looked like a command console, though the design was nothing like human or coalition technology. "This is perfect," Daiho said, studying the chamber with his tactical eye. "Multiple exits. High ceiling. We can defend this." Unji examined the ancient console. "I think this controlled the tunnel systems. If I can figure out how it works, we might be able to seal passages, redirect the Vrexians, split their forces." "How long do you need?" Daiho asked. "Hours, maybe days. This technology is completely foreign." Bexiel chirped and moved to the console. It placed its paw on a specific symbol and the console lit up. Images appeared in the air above it, showing a 3-dimensional map of the entire tunnel network. The dragon looked at Yunji and chirped encouragingly. "It wants to help me," Yunji said in amazement. "It knows how this works." "Then work fast," Daiho said. "The rest of us will set up defenses." The squad moved with practiced efficiency. Minho found elevated positions in the tunnels leading to the chamber, perfect for sniper work. Yunwoo set up his heavy weapons to cover the main entrance. Taehyun placed explosive charges in strategic locations, ready to collapse tunnels if needed. Nari mapped all the escape routes on her datapad. Sora established a communication network between all squad members using short-range radios. Jiwon set up a medical station in a sheltered alcove. Hana helped everyone, moving supplies and ammunition. They worked through the night. Bexiel moved between them, sometimes helping Yunji understand the ancient systems, sometimes showing Minho hidden passages, sometimes just making encouraging chirping sounds. As dawn broke on the surface far above them, the Vrexians entered the listening post. Through sensors Kiwoo had left behind, they watched the aliens discover the empty building. The Vrexians were large creatures, heavily armored with 4 arms and mandibles that clicked in their language of warfare. "They're angry," Sora translated from the intercepted communications. They expected easy prey. They're calling for reinforcements. How many? Deho asked. 200 ground troops plus 50 battle mechs, Kiwoo reported. Against 10 humans and 1 dragon. The odds aren't good, Taehyun said. The odds have never been good for humans, Hyunwoo replied with a grim smile. The Vrexians found the tunnel entrance within an hour. Their scouts entered cautiously, weapons ready. They expected to find scared humans huddled in the dark. What they found was Bexul. The dragon appeared before them like a ghost, scales glowing in the tunnel darkness. The Vrexians opened fire immediately. Energy bolts filled the tunnel. But Bexul did something impossible. The dragon seemed to flicker, to shift slightly out of sync with reality. The energy bolts passed through where it had been standing. Then Bexul opened its mouth and breathed plasma. The superheated stream melted through Vrexian armor like paper. 3 scouts fell before they could scream. The others retreated in panic. From his sniper position, Minho watched through his scope. Did that just happen? He whispered. Phase shifting, Kiwoo said excitedly over the radio. It can move partially out of normal space-time. That's incredible. That's useful, Deho corrected. Can it teach us to do that? I don't think human biology works that way. The Vrexian main force entered the tunnels in strength. They came in organized groups using standard tunnel fighting tactics. They expected resistance. They didn't expect what they got. Bexul would appear, attack, and vanish before they could react. The dragon moved through solid walls, attacked from impossible angles, and disappeared like smoke. The Vrexians couldn't hit what they couldn't predict, and where Bexul created chaos, the human soldiers struck. Minho's sniper fire took down officers. Hyunwoo's heavy weapons tore through their formations. Taehyun's explosives collapsed tunnels at perfect moments. The Vrexians were fighting in unfamiliar territory against an enemy who knew every passage. Yunji had learned to use the ancient systems with Bexul's help. She sealed passages behind Vrexian groups, separating them from reinforcements. She opened new passages that led enemies into kill zones. The moon itself became their weapon. Group of 20 heading toward your position, Minho, Sora called over the radio. I see them, Minho replied. He waited until they entered a narrow passage. One shot triggered Taehyun's explosive. The tunnel ceiling came down, crushing the Vrexian squad. That's 60 down, Kiwoo reported. 140 to go. Plus the battle mechs, Hana reminded them. They haven't sent those in yet. The battle mechs arrived at midday. Massive machines that stood 20 feet tall, armed with weapons that could level buildings. They couldn't fit through most of the smaller tunnels, so they entered through the main passage toward the central chamber. This is it, Deho said. Everyone to defensive positions. 5 battle mechs advanced through the tunnel, their footsteps shaking the ground. Their sensors swept ahead, searching for targets. They found Hyunwoo instead. The heavy weapons specialist opened fire with everything he had. His plasma rifle overheated almost immediately. The battle mechs barely slowed down. Their return fire forced Hyunwoo to retreat toward the central chamber. I can't stop them, he shouted. You don't have to, Yoonji replied. She worked the ancient console with Bexul at her side. Bexul showed me something. These tunnels have more than just passages. She activated a sequence. The tunnel ceiling above the battle mech split open. Ancient defensive systems, dormant for millions of years, came online. Energy beams, nothing like coalition technology, lanced down. The battle mechs exploded in sequence. The Vrexians heard the explosions and paused their assault. Their communications filled with confusion and fear. They had come expecting to slaughter helpless humans. Instead, they were being systematically destroyed. But the Vrexians were warriors. They regrouped and came again, this time with better tactics. They used drones to scout ahead. They mapped the passages. They learned. The battle became a dance of death through the ancient tunnels. The human squad moved constantly, never staying in one position long. Bexul was everywhere, protecting them, striking the enemy, showing them paths to safety. The dragon seemed tireless, its white scales often splattered with the dark blood of their enemies. Jiwon stayed busy treating injuries. Cuts from falling rocks, burns from near-miss energy bolts, exhaustion, but no one had died yet. That was almost miraculous given what they faced. As night fell again on the surface, the Vrexians pulled back to regroup. They had lost over 100 soldiers and all 5 battle mechs they had sent into the tunnels. The humans, impossibly, were still fighting. In the central chamber, the squad collapsed in exhaustion. They had been fighting for 16 hours straight. Bexul curled up in the center of the group, making soft, comforting sounds. "We actually hurt them," Hana said in wonder. "We're winning." "We're surviving," Deho corrected. "That's not the same as winning. They still have numbers. They'll adapt." "But we have Bexiel," Ji-won said, gently cleaning blood from the dragon's scales. The dragon purred under her attention. "And the tunnels," Yunji added. "And each other." Sora had been monitoring Vrexian communications. "They're calling us demons. They think Bexiel is some kind of death spirit. They're afraid." "Good," Taehyun said. "Let them be afraid. Let them know that humans don't die quietly." Minho checked his ammunition. "We have enough for maybe one more big fight. After that, we're down to hand weapons." "Then we better make it count," Hyunwoo said. Kiwoo looked at his datapad, at all the scans he'd taken of the tunnels and Bexiol and the ancient technology. "If we survive this, we're bringing back evidence of a civilization more advanced than anything the Coalition has ever seen." "When we survive this," Ji-won corrected with a tired smile. Bexiol chirped softly and nuzzled against each soldier in turn, as if reassuring them. The dragon's red eyes gleamed with determination. It had been alone for so long. Now it had something worth protecting. It had friends. Daiho watched his squad and their dragon companion. They should all be dead already. But here they were, still breathing, still fighting. Maybe Ji-won's grandmother was right. Maybe humans really didn't know when to quit. The attack came at dawn, but this time it was different. The Vrexians didn't charge blindly into the tunnels. Instead, they started sealing exits, cutting off escape routes. They were trying to trap the humans, to turn the tunnels from an advantage into a tomb. "They learned," Minho reported from his scout position. "They're being smart about it now." "How many exits do we have left?" Daeho asked. Yunji checked the ancient console. 4, and they're working on sealing those too. "We have maybe 2 hours before we're completely trapped." Bexiel made an urgent chirping sound. The dragon moved to the console and began pressing symbols in a specific sequence. The holographic map changed, showing passages even deeper into the moon's core, passages that didn't appear on any previous scans. "There's more," Kiwoo said, staring at his datapad. "There's a whole facility down there, massive, and it's still active." Bexiel nodded and gestured insistently toward the deeper tunnels. It wanted them to follow. "This could be a dead end," Taehyun warned. "Go deeper, get trapped, die in the dark. Or stay here and die when they seal all the exits," Sora countered. Daeho made the decision. "We follow Bexiel, pack up." 2 minutes, they moved quickly, gathering weapons and supplies. Ji-won made sure her medical kit was secured. Nari downloaded all of Yunji's work on the ancient systems to her datapad. Kiwoo grabbed as much scanning equipment as he could carry. They left behind anything that would slow them down. Bexiel led them through tunnels that became older and older. The symbols on the walls changed, became more complex. The air itself felt different, charged with energy that made their skin tingle. "The radiation levels are increasing," Kiwoo reported, "but it's not dangerous. It's organized somehow, controlled." They descended for over an hour, going deeper into Keswick 7 than any scan had shown was possible. Then the tunnel opened into a chamber so large that their lights couldn't reach the far walls. The floor beneath their feet was perfectly smooth, made of a material that seemed to shift between metal and crystal. Massive pillars rose into the darkness above, and in the center of the chamber stood what could only be called a throne, carved from a single piece of white stone that glowed with its own internal light. "What is this place?" Hana whispered. Bexiel moved to the throne and placed a paw on it. The entire chamber lit up. Lights appeared everywhere, revealing the true size of the space. It was a city built inside the moon. Towers and structures stretched in all directions, and everything was pristine as if maintained by invisible hands. Kiwoo's datapad went crazy with readings. His hands shook as he tried to process the data. "This is impossible. The power signatures here are bigger than anything I've ever seen. This facility could power a planet." Yunji examined the nearest console. Unlike the systems above, these controls came with visual guides as if designed to be understood by anyone. "It's a teaching system. It wants to be learned." Bexiel jumped onto the throne and chirped loudly. The sound echoed through the chamber. Then something extraordinary happened. The dragon began to glow brighter and brighter until they had to look away. When the light faded, Bexiel was no longer alone on the throne. Holographic images surrounded the dragon. Images of creatures that looked like Bexiel but larger. Dragons of many colors filled the chamber. along with beings of light that had no physical form. And there were other species too, creatures of flesh and metal and energy, all working together. It's a recording, Sora breathed. A historical record. The images moved, telling a story. The dragons and the beings of light had built this facility millions of years ago. They were called the progenitors, the first great civilization in this sector of space. They had created wonders, explored the universe, and sought to understand the nature of existence itself. But they had also worried about the future. They knew they wouldn't last forever, so they created guardians, beings like Baxiol, enhanced with technology and given a mission. Wait for the next great civilization, test them, judge if they were worthy of the progenitor's legacy. Baxiol is a guardian, Jiwan said softly. It's been waiting here for millions of years. The hologram showed the test. The guardians would watch new species as they explored the galaxy. They would look for 3 qualities that the progenitors believed defined true civilization: courage in the face of death, adaptability when faced with the impossible, and most importantly, compassion even when there was no benefit to showing it. That's why it helped us, Deho realized. We're being tested, Baxiol chirped and nodded. The hologram changed, showing recent events. The human squad being abandoned by the coalition, their refusal to give up despite hopeless odds, their decision to fight together rather than turn on each other in fear. And then it showed Jiwan treating Baxiol's wing, a human facing death, using precious resources to help a strange creature, expecting nothing in return. Just helping because it was the right thing to do. The hologram showed Baxiol's reaction. The Guardian had found what it was searching for. After millions of years, a species had passed the test. We passed? Hana asked in disbelief. But we're not special. We're just soldiers trying to survive. Baxiol made a sound that seemed almost like laughter. The hologram showed what the dragon had witnessed during its long watch. It showed the coalition species. Powerful, advanced, and cold. They had courage and adaptability, but they lacked compassion. They abandoned allies who became inconvenient. They ranked species by usefulness. They saw others as tools. Then it showed humans, physically weaker than most species, technologically behind, lifespans that were short by galactic standards. But humans cared. They formed bonds across species. They sacrificed for those bonds. They saw people, not tools. That's what they were looking for, Kiwu said, understanding flooding through him. Not strength. Not technology, character. The hologram showed more. The progenitors had left technology hidden throughout the galaxy. Medical advances that could cure diseases, energy systems that needed no fuel, faster than light communication that didn't rely on coalition infrastructure, knowledge that could change everything. But this knowledge could also be used as a weapon. In the wrong hands, progenitor technology could conquer the galaxy. So the Guardians waited, watching, testing, ensuring that only species with the right character could access it. And now, Baxiol had made its choice. Humanity would be given the progenitor's legacy. This is too much, Taehyun said. We're just 10 soldiers. We can't represent all of humanity, Baxiol chirped firmly. The hologram showed the dragon's observation of humans over the years. It had watched human explorers show mercy to defeated enemies. It had seen human scientists share discoveries freely. It had witnessed human artists create beauty for no reason except joy. It had observed countless small acts of kindness, sacrifice, and compassion. The 10 soldiers in this chamber weren't special because they were different from other humans. They were special because they perfectly represented what humans were. Sora was studying one of the consoles. Her face went pale. There's a defense system. Ancient weapons that could destroy the Rexian forces on the surface. We could end this fight right now. Do it, Taehyun said immediately. But Baxiol shook its head. The hologram changed, showing 2 paths. One path showed the weapons activating, destroying the Vrexians. Quick, easy, violent. The other path showed the facility's shields activating, pushing the Vrexians away without killing them. Slower, harder, but merciful. It's another test, Jiwan realized. Do we choose revenge or mercy? They tried to kill us, Hyunwoo said. They would have slaughtered us without hesitation. But they were following orders just like we were, Deho said quietly. The Vrexians aren't evil. They're just soldiers doing their job, like us, and so we let them go? Taehyun asked incredulously. We show them that humans are better than the species who abandoned us, Jiwan said. We show them compassion. The squad looked at each other. It was a hard choice. The Vrexians had hunted them, tried to kill them. Vengeance would feel good. But would it be right? Vote, Deho said. All in favor of using the shields, not the weapons. One by one, hands went up. Even Taehyun, after a long moment, raised his hand. Unanimous, Deho said. We choose mercy. Bexiol made a joyful sound and leaped from the throne. The dragon danced around them, clearly pleased. The hologram changed one final time, showing what would happen next. The facility would activate its shields, creating a barrier around Keswick 7 that nothing could penetrate. The Vrexians would be pushed off the moon but not harmed. And then the facility would broadcast a message across the galaxy, a message that would change everything. Yunji's hands moved across the ancient console with growing confidence. Bexel had taught her well over the past hours. The dragon sat beside her, chirping encouragement as she worked to activate the shield system. The power is unbelievable, she said. This facility has been gathering energy from the moon's core for millions of years. There's enough power here to protect this entire system. Then let's use it, Deho said. On the surface above, the Vrexians were preparing their final assault. They had sealed all tunnel exits except one. They had positioned their remaining forces for a coordinated strike. The humans and their mysterious creature would have nowhere to run. This time the hunt would end. The Vrexian commander gave the order to attack. 200 soldiers advanced into the tunnels. They expected resistance. They expected traps. What they got instead was light. The entire moon began to glow. Energy flowed through tunnels and passages, spreading from the core to the surface. Then, with a sound like ringing crystal, a shield expanded from Keswick 7. It was beautiful, shimmering with colors that had no names in any language. The shield pushed outward gently but unstoppably. The Vrexian soldiers found themselves lifted off their feet and carried toward the surface. They weren't harmed. The shield simply moved them like leaves on a stream. Their weapons wouldn't fire. Their communications went silent. All they could do was watch in awe as they were pushed out of the tunnels and off the moon entirely. The Vrexian ships in orbit tried to approach, but the shield stopped them. Nothing could penetrate it. Not weapons, not scanners, nothing. Keswick 7 had become untouchable. In the central chamber, Kiwu watched his datapad display the shield's expansion. It's working. The Vrexians are being evacuated. No casualties. They're going to be really confused, Nari said with a small smile. They should be scared, Sora added. We just showed them we have technology beyond anything the Coalition can match. But Bexiol shook its head. The dragon moved to another console and activated a different system. Above the central chamber, a massive communications array powered up. It had been silent for millions of years. Now it woke. What's it doing? Hana asked. Broadcasting, Kiwu said, his eyes wide. On every frequency. Every channel. Every communication system in the galaxy is going to receive this. The message began. It wasn't words. It was images and emotions, transmitted in a way that every species could understand regardless of their language. The message showed everything that had happened on Keswick 7. It showed the Coalition abandoning 10 human soldiers. It showed their courage as they prepared to die. It showed Bexiol appearing and the humans' reaction. Not violence, not fear, but compassion. A human medic treating the dragon's injury despite their desperate situation. The message showed the battle in the tunnels. 10 humans and 1 dragon fighting against impossible odds. It showed their tactics, their teamwork, their refusal to surrender. It showed Bexiol protecting them, and them protecting Bexiol in return. And then it showed the choice. The moment when they could have killed their enemies but chose mercy instead. The message ended with Bexiol's judgment, spoken through the ancient systems in every language simultaneously. Humanity has been tested and found worthy. The progenitors judged civilizations by 3 measures: courage in darkness, adaptability in crisis, compassion when there is no benefit to showing it. Humanity possesses all 3. The progenitors' legacy is now under human protection. Let all who would dismiss them witness what these 10 have done. The broadcast reached the Coalition fleet first. Admiral Vexith, who had ordered the abandonment of the human squad, watched the message in his command center. His 3 hearts sank as he realized what he had done. He had not just abandoned soldiers. He had failed a test administered by beings far greater than himself. The message reached Coalition headquarters next. The Council of Species gathered in emergency session. They had dismissed humanity as a lesser species. Now they learned that the ancient progenitors had chosen humans as their inheritors. On Earth, the message played on every screen. People stopped in streets to watch. They saw their soldiers abandoned and left to die, choosing mercy over vengeance. They saw proof that humanity's values meant something. That compassion was not weakness. That kindness was not foolishness. And they saw Bexiol, the white dragon that had judged them worthy. In the chamber on Keswick 7, the 10 soldiers watched the broadcast complete. They looked at each other in stunned silence. "We're famous," Hana said quietly. "We're going to change everything," Jiwan corrected. Daeho felt the weight of it settling on his shoulders. They had come here expecting to die forgotten. Instead, they had become symbols of humanity's potential. The console lit up with incoming communications. Thousands of them, coalition ships requesting permission to approach, Earth government demanding updates, news organizations begging for interviews, and one message marked urgent from Coalition Command. Sora opened it. The message was from Admiral Vexith himself. "I apologize. I was wrong. Please allow us to extract you." "Too late for that," Taehyun said bitterly. But Daeho was reading the rest of the message. The Admiral was requesting a meeting. Not to extract the soldiers, but to negotiate. The Coalition wanted to discuss humanity's new position in the galaxy. "They want to talk," Daeho said. "We have leverage now." "We have more than leverage," Kiwoo said. He was studying the facility systems. "We have technology that the Coalition would kill for. Medical systems that could cure diseases. Energy sources that could power worlds. Progenitor knowledge that could advance every species by centuries. And it's ours," Yunji said. "Bixel gave it to us." The dragon chirped and moved to stand before Daeho. It looked at him with those intelligent red eyes and made a gesture that clearly asked a question. What would they do with this power? Daeho knelt down to Bexil's level. "We're going to share it," he said. "Not all of it. We're not fools. We'll keep some things for Earth's protection. But the medical technology, the energy systems, the things that can help people, we'll share those, because that's what humans do." Bexil made a pleased sound and rubbed its head against Daeho's hand. "The Council won't like that," Sora warned. "Giving away such valuable technology." "The Council abandoned us to die," Hyunwoo said. "They don't get to make demands." "But we're not doing this for demands," Jiwan said. She understood. "We're doing it because it's right. Because the progenitors chose us for our compassion, so we show compassion." Over the next days, coalition ships gathered around Keswick 7. They couldn't penetrate the shield, but they waited. Earth sent their own ships too. The 10 soldiers became negotiators, speaking for their entire species. They met with coalition representatives through holographic communication. They presented their terms. Humanity would be recognized as equals. Earth would have a seat on the Coalition Council. And in exchange, humanity would share some progenitor technology freely, the Council argued. Some species protested. But the message was still broadcasting, showing those 10 soldiers choosing mercy, showing Bexil's judgment. The public opinion across the galaxy shifted. Many species began to see humanity differently. Weeks passed. The negotiations continued. The 10 soldiers remained on Keswick 7, living in the progenitor city with Bexil as their guide and friend. They learned to use the ancient systems. They studied the technology. They prepared to share knowledge that would change the galaxy. Finally, the Council agreed. Humanity would be treated as equals. The 10 soldiers had won not through violence, but through the strength of their character. On the day the treaty was signed, Daeho stood with his squad in the central chamber. They had come here to die. Instead, they had found something greater. They had proven that humans deserved their place among the stars. Bexil sat with them, purring contentedly. The dragon had been alone for so long. Now it had a family. 10 humans who had shown it what it meant to be worthy, who had treated it with kindness when they had nothing to gain, who had chosen mercy over vengeance. "So what happens now?" Hana asked. "Do we go home?" "Home comes to us," Nari said. She was watching the scanners. Earth is sending colony ships. They want to build here around the progenitor site, learn from it, protect it. "And us?" Taehyun asked. "What do we do?" "We guard it," Daeho said. "That's still our mission. We protect this place. We decide who gets access to progenitor knowledge. We make sure it's used wisely." "With Bexil's help," Jiwan added, stroking the dragon's white scales. "We were left here to die," Minho said quietly. "But maybe that was the best thing that could have happened." If we'd been rescued, none of this would exist. We wouldn't have met Bexiel. We wouldn't have found the progenitor facility. Humanity wouldn't have this chance. The Coalition meant it as a death sentence, Sora agreed. We turned it into humanity's greatest victory. Hyunwoo laughed. They tried to get rid of us. Instead, they made us the most important humans in the galaxy. Kiwoo was already making plans. Scientists from Earth are going to want access. We need protocols, safety measures. The progenitor technology is powerful. We can't let it be misused. We will, Enji assured him. That's why Bexiel chose us. Because we'll do this right. Outside, the first Earth colony ship entered orbit around Keswick 7. More would follow.